Some of the questions that we have talked about on Kiowa Solutions, are some of the things that have affected people as far as what are the barriers that they have, as far as progressing as a tribe, and people bringing it up time and time again. Education, we need to educate our people, not only in a book sense, but in a business sense. We need to be more business minded. We need to focus on goals that will uplift us, and educate us and learn from mentors like the Chickasaws, the Choctaws, other tribes, that will they will gladly offer education in those areas that will help us succeed as a tribe, and look at non-conventional ways, thinking outside of the box of economic development outside of our land base. We're not restricted to our 5-county service area. There's no reason why we couldn't, develop. I know gaming is kind of a touchy subject because it's just, people don't really, a lot of our tribal people don't understand, the business of gaming, but it has, given everybody the opportunity to uplift their tribe. And also, I've seen in the Northwest from my grandmother's tribe where they have given financial assistance to other tribes. And in that turn, that's their investment, and they get that money back. So, I hate to say they're making money off of other tribes, but, they're the lenders. They're not going to non-native banks to borrow money. They're going to these other tribes. And so this small tribe that my grandmother belongs to are very wealthy right now. They're doing a lot for their people. They have a institute for their people to do any kind of training they want online. They're in a rural community, and these people are succeeding, and we can take advantage of learning from other tribes. Thank you.
Up here. Now I know it's not 30 seconds exactly, so we're giving a little bit here and there.
What I would like to see for education, hello, can you hear me now? Yeah. What I would like to see in the area of education is to have the Kiowa University. I think other tribes in Oklahoma can have a college. I think once we are functioning, that's not right around the corner, but I mean in the future, I would like to see our tribe having a university also, or college. I think that's the road to go, because we do need education for our children, and that is the future. That's why our Constitution, we didn't have the education back then when they did our current Constitution. Now we do. And our Constitution is our education. Thank you.
Anybody else want to respond?
One thing I think about with education is the Comanche Nation College. It's very underutilized. And one program or one area, the Creek Nation, does train their people in the casino business. And I feel like the tribe could contract with the Comanches in some way and prepare in an educational setting to get training for the casino, for individual jobs that are good jobs, and to send those people to help them to do that, try to do that. The Creek Nation does this with their college, and it's accredited through, I believe, OSU. And Dr. King, who sits on the Kiowa Casino Operating Authority, I actually missed the tour of going to that school. And seeing their tribal members being prepared to go work in the casinos. And it's a long way from Carnegie, 80 miles. And this idea that you're gonna bus people on an 8 to 5 hourly basis. We don't need people at 8 o'clock in the morning. The people are in the casino after, when you're off from work, right now, later, the weekends, the holidays. So this idea of busing all these people to the casino to work is absolutely ridiculous.
Thank you.
So it would be a waste of money in that. I'm for using Comanche Nation College.
Modena, or Steve, you want to respond?
No, that's, go ahead, you got it.
The question was on education. That is an area that I really want to pay attention to as chairman. I want to recognize students who have the grade point average across the state, and wherever else we can get the information back into the Kiowa tribe so that we can have some recognition. It could be in the form of a monetary award for, say, having a 4.0 or a 3.5, something to recognize them on a yearly basis. Because I have known a person up in the Tulsa area who had a high GPA, and the tribe, you know, it would have been nice to have that student recognized. So I would like to pay attention to that area.
Thank you.
On academic education, I just want to remind everybody that I do believe in this upcoming year of 2017, one basic thing is there should be enough money for every student, every applicant to get the full amount possible. I believe we'll have that excess. But I want to talk about cultural education and political education. One of the most pressing short-term goals and long-term goals, and it has been a point of controversy, you know, in the tribe, is efforts to revitalize our language and teach our language. And so that's the cultural education that is key when we find ourselves with maybe the money and resources to do things we haven't been able to. I think a sizable investment has to be made into these language efforts. And I don't know why different efforts have created controversy. It seems hard getting everybody to swim in the same direction. But gosh, it's only one language, and it seems like every person out there that's willing to devote their time and expertise, you know, needs to be utilized. I don't know why there's controversy over methods and whatnot, but this language is a key to our future. Blood quantum is a dead end. In the old days, in the old Kiowa ways, it was if you dressed Kiowa, you lived Kiowa, you spoke Kiowa, you were Kiowa. Our identity was cultural, and language is 99% of preserving that identity. And then lastly, I'd like to speak real quickly about political education. You know, for 2 years, I go 3 times a year, and I want to tell everybody I paid my own expenses, $12,000 of my own money to make my commitment to NCAI. The tribe didn't pay for it. But I would go there, and they have the youth council, and every city, you know, every year, every place I went to, it always gave me a chagrined feeling on the inside to see all these outstanding young people there that are learning about ways of governmental ways and how they can preserve sovereignty of their people and get started way earlier than most of us have. You know, I see a young man like this young man right here, Monique's son. I would like to see the tribe in the very near future devote that money and identify these outstanding young people and get them an education of politics in Indian country and let them see the successes outside of our own area and bring them home and get started to work at an early age.
Thank you. Any other response to the question?
One thing I think that is very important that I did with my daughter, she's 10 years old now, but when she was little, she was just a tiny baby. I think it's very detrimental for all of us. We have grandkids, kids, is to teach them when they're babies, before they can even talk, whatever they see, facial expressions, pronouncing words in front of their faces. And the sooner you get to them and educate them and get involved with teaching them, the more they'll learn. Don't let them sit in front of video games all the time. You know, sit down with them and teach them stuff. ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, that's the basic thing. Teach them as quickly as possible. Recognition, letters, numbers. I know it works because I did that with my daughter. My mom showed me that when I was little, you know, tiny. So it's not off the point. This is an investment that we have to make for our kids. You know, we have to teach them early and have fun and make it fun for them. That's it. Hope.
As far as education, I think if we have heard tonight, it is a common goal amongst all of us as Kiowa people, and traditionally, it is something we have held in highest esteem. Very small in numbers as a tribe, but we were very clever and very quick as a people. I am such a proponent that our traditional education is just as important as our secular education. We have a responsibility, a government responsibility, a fiduciary responsibility to ensure that our children and our tribal members have access to education. That conduit's already been put out there through federal programs, and we just need to ensure that they have access. We have many individual tribal members, and one in particular who has taken this media of social media, and he has put over 4,000 different posts up for Kiowa language. I applaud that kind of effort because this rising generation doesn't have what I have. You don't have two full-blood Kiowas raising in the morning and praying before you ever get up. And to understand our language is to understand who you are, to understand how and why we do what we do the way we do it. And when they have that sense of self, suicides will go down, the social problems will go down, the inability to westernize within this dominant culture that constantly has their foot on our neck. They will begin to be able to see themselves as Daki has created them, and that is an essential part of holistic education.
Thank you. Anybody else want to respond? If not, we'll go to another question from the audience.
I had a question, just real quick.
We have a response right here.
Oh.
Is this on? Thank you. As far as education, I'm going to be short and sweet. We need education in our economic development among our adults. We need financial literacy among our young people, our middle-aged people, our old people. I work with widows and widowers all the time who've never filled out a checkbook because their husband or their wife did that. They don't have a credit report. They don't even understand how to read one. That's true financial literacy. The other part that I would like to see is regarding our veterans. Those returning that need reassimilation into the population, they need education. Our children need life skills such as interviewing, how to put together a resume, how to conduct yourself in an interview, looking each other in the eyes, shaking the hand, how to dress. That's all another aspect of education, because if we are not preparing them for the eventuality of them moving forward into the workforce, the academic part of that is great, but we fail on the secondary part of that.
One question I had, and I know that one of the main things that a government needs to do is to be able to generate revenue to provide services to its members or citizens. And of course, we know that some of the tribes here in Oklahoma are very successful. For example, the Chickasaw Nation. Of course, the Chickasaw Nation has, I think, 18 casinos now. They have multiple businesses. They run Remington Park. They own the Bricktown Ballpark. They have multiple travel plazas. And all that generates revenue to provide services to their people. Specifically, as candidates, what do you anticipate doing to generate revenue to provide these services? In other words, to fulfill, whatever promises or education that you think? Are you looking at businesses? Are you looking at getting federal grants? What do you anticipate specifically would be the best way for the Kiowa people to, or taxes, or whatever it is that the government needs to operate? Because, of course, that's, that's where the rubber meets the road in terms of providing services. What is your vision in terms of bringing our people up to the same level as a lot of these other tribes?
I'll go. Of course, I think the first thing we need to do is get the programs back, federal and state programs. If we get those programs back, then we'll be able to, I don't know, buy ourselves some time. We'll get help to our Kiowa members. And then after we decide what types of business we want to go into, I think that the quickest way is to go through our smoke, get smoke shops going. Get, to me, I think mobile food trucks. The tribe, instead of getting a brick and mortar, have mobile trucks so we can go to where the events are, where people are, and sell our food, whatever we decide to sell. And I know food trucks are profitable because I actually ran one for, several years on my own, well, with the help of family. But I think if we start like that, kind of small with things that, most tribes know how to start and do, I think that would get the ball rolling. And then when we get money coming in, then we can aim for bigger ventures. Like I was talking about foreign companies setting up on KCA land and creating mega jobs, And that company would just have to be, whatever company is willing and wanting to come here. A lot of companies want to come here and set up on Indian land. So I think if we start small, what we know, and then build up, then we'll be fine.
Thank you. Responses?
That's a pretty big question and a pretty loaded question, but one we like to think about in the comparison to 18 casinos and a reestablishment of a government that's coming into a crisis situation. And I know nobody on this panel has a crystal ball to understand what exactly it is that we're looking at. The reestablishment of our sovereignty and the reestablishment of our legal teeth will allow us to be able to move forward. The Kiowa Indian Council has already voted and approved for the raising of the blood quantum. So without being clever, without creating anything new, and without having to put something new before a vote, by following through what was already voted on, then you raise the number of Kiowa. By doing so, you automatically raise the amount of federal funding, and it gives you a basis to work from. That is something that can be done immediately, put into resolution immediately. And by doing so, it improves the fiduciary standing of the tribe.
Odina? We'll correct this flaw the next time. We don't have to get up and walk back and forth.
I dream of eventually building a mental health center at Indian City, a behavioral health center where we can focus on our youth. The OMB rate right now is $368 per service. It's not just the casino where we should look at revenue, but we can look at the areas in health services. And can you imagine the youth riding bikes out around Indian City? A walking trail. We could also serve other tribes in the community. We could, become self-sufficient by these reimbursements, but we also can have the recurring dollars from Indian Health Service. I think that's needed in all of our communities to keep our youth from going the other direction, and have a staff of maybe a dozen people, because that's the trend in other tribes. They are focusing on the youth from the area of mental health and behavioral health. So that's one idea that I really like.
Thank you. We're waiting for any other responses here.
I know one area that we can utilize immediately, not have to wait for, that's been underutilized, is the Tribal Employment Rights Ordinance, otherwise known as TARO. And there are a lot of industries, if a tribe is providing a service or a product, then all of the other tribes that have TARO ordinances are bound by their tribal law to use that Indian service. And, you know, particulars about some of the ideas for, I know there are industries and businesses around our tribal area that are not being served by any Indian business. And so certain smaller businesses could be established very quickly that as long as the price was, you know, even if the Indian tribal price is a little bit higher than the non-Indian, as long as it's in the same ballpark, they have to use that service. They don't have a choice. And so there are some key areas, and I'll say there's large-scale projects that we look at to bring in big revenue to the tribe, but don't discount smaller scale projects that provide jobs. You know, our Verdant Casino doesn't bring in a lot of money. You know, you let it sit for a year or so, and that profit can build up to about $250,000. But you know, ever since the doors opened, there's been about a core of 25, 27 Kiowas, you know, or 30, you know, the majority of the employees since the doors opened there have always been Kiowa. And I'll just end this on what I heard at some of my TARO training. A tribal leader who's very well respected in that field. And he said, I'll trade 1,000 per capita payments for 100 jobs any day. You know, and I agree with him, because a job gives a family so much more than just money will. So TARO, we have it, it's on the books, we have that law. We come up with good ideas and provide the service. The other tribes in the area will have to use it right away.
Thank you very much. Body language, we can tell everybody's getting wore down right now, including me. We're going to take a couple more questions from the audience now. I know we have committee members in here. I want to reinforce this. We initially invited the 4 major offices for this, so we're giving you a little benefit of giving you a piece of say-so here, but primarily we want to look at the 4 candidates here, these areas what we're looking at, but with all due respect, and also because of time. So, 2 more questions.
Gary, like Trump, you can read body language good.
Yeah, thank you. When you can see it, more like Trump instead of Trump.